George Weah.
Exactly, Mr. George. That's how we used to call him in France, Mr. George. You guys saw him kind of late. You know, when he went to Milan, and he was already outstanding. He won the Golden Ball there. Paris also, but I saw him in Monaco. When I first saw him, I was in the youth academy and he was playing for Monaco, and some of the goals that he scored are in training. It's just sheer power. I've never seen that before like that. I've never seen, I would say in the game, power and speed like George Weah. And you know it, I'm not saying that just now.
Yeah.
It's just the goals that he scored, the way he scored them, the power, his finishing also was outstanding.
George Mane Weah grew up in Clara Town, one of the most dangerous slums in Monrovia, Liberia. A place with no running water, no electricity, and no future. A place where children played football barefoot on dirt pitches because boots were a luxury nobody could afford. While the greatest academies in Europe were producing polished talents with professional coaching and state-of-the-art facilities, George Weah was teaching himself football on the streets with a ball made of rags. And yet this man, this boy from Clara Town with nothing, would go on to become the only African player in the history of football to win the Ballon d'Or, the most prestigious individual award the game has ever produced. And that is just where his story begins, because George Weah did not just become a football legend. He became a president. He became a symbol of what one human being can achieve when the entire world has decided they have no chance. Liberia was torn apart by civil war during his playing career. His country had no money, no infrastructure, no way to fund a national football team. So Weah funded it himself, out of his own pocket. He paid the players. He paid for the flights. He coached them. He did everything because nobody else would. And when his football career ended, he did not retire quietly to a life of luxury. He ran for president of Liberia, lost. Ran again, lost again. And then, in 2018, won. The boy from Clara Town with the rag ball became the head of state of an entire nation. Subscribe to Goalline Stories right now, because this story is unlike anything football has ever produced. In 1988, Arsène Wenger was managing Monaco in the French First Division. He had heard about a raw, powerful striker playing in Cameroon for a club called Tonnerre Yaoundé. Wenger flew out to watch him. What he saw stopped him in his tracks. George Weah was 21 years old, built like a freight train, and moved like a sprinter. He had never had professional coaching. He had never trained in a proper facility. And yet the instincts, the pace, the power, it was all there naturally. Wenger signed him immediately and brought him to Monaco. And from that moment, George Weah's life changed forever. But here is what made Weah truly extraordinary. Most players who make that jump, from African football to European football, take years to adapt. The pace is different. The tactics are different. The pressure is completely different. Weah adapted in months. By his second season at Monaco, he was one of the most dangerous strikers in France. His acceleration was frightening. His finishing was ice cold, and his physical presence made defenders genuinely afraid. He scored 57 goals in 5 seasons at Monaco. Then Paris Saint-Germain came calling with a bigger contract and a bigger stage. Weah said yes, and at PSG he became something the football world had never seen before. An African striker at the very top of European football, carrying an entire continent on his shoulders, playing every single game like it was his last, because he knew better than anyone that opportunities like this do not come twice. Not for a boy from Clara Town, not for anyone. At Paris Saint-Germain, George Weah became unstoppable. In the 1994-95 Champions League, he was the top scorer in the entire competition. Not just good, not just impressive, the best in Europe. He scored against Bayern Munich. He scored against Barcelona. He dragged PSG to the semi-finals almost single-handedly. Meanwhile, AC Milan, the most powerful club in the world at that time, were watching every single game. And when the season ended, Milan made their move. They paid for Weah immediately. And in the summer of 1995, the boy from Clara Town walked into the San Siro as an AC Milan player. What happened next defined a generation. In his very first season at Milan, Weah scored the goal that Italian football still talks about today. Against Hellas Verona in 1996, he received the ball inside his own penalty box, surrounded by defenders, with the entire length of the pitch between him and the goal. What he did next defied everything football logic said was possible. He ran, past one defender, then another, then another. The entire Verona team could not stop him. He carried the ball the full length of the pitch and buried it in the net. The San Siro erupted. Gazzetta dello Sport ran pages of analysis for days, calling it the greatest goal ever scored in Italian football. But the goal was just the highlight reel. The real story was what Weah had already achieved off the pitch. Because in 1995, George Weah had done something no African player had ever done before, and nobody believed was even possible. He won the Ballon d'Or. And when he held that trophy, his first words were not about himself. They were about the man who believed in him first, Arsène Wenger, the coach who flew to Cameroon for a boy from a Liberian slum. Winning the Ballon d'Or should have been the moment George Weah could finally exhale. The moment he could look back at Clara Town and say, "I made it." But Weah never exhaled. Because while he was winning individual awards and scoring impossible goals at the San Siro, his country was burning. Liberia was in the middle of one of the most brutal civil wars in African history. Hundreds of thousands of people dead, cities destroyed, children carrying weapons instead of footballs, and the Liberian national football team, the Lone Stars, had no money, no support, and no way to keep playing. So George Weah did something that no footballer in history had ever done before. He took his own money, the money he had earned through years of professional football in France and Italy, and he funded the entire national team himself. He paid the players their wages. He paid for the flights to away matches. He bought the kits. He organized the training camps. He even coached the team himself when there was nobody else to do it. All of this while playing at the highest level in European football. All of this while carrying the weight of being the greatest player his continent had ever produced. Pelé called him the greatest African footballer who ever lived. FIFA named him in their list of the 100 greatest players in history. And through all of it, Weah kept sending money home, kept funding the Lone Stars, kept showing up for a country that the rest of the world had forgotten existed. Because for George Weah, football was never just football. It was the only weapon he had against a world that had given his people nothing. And he used it like a man who understood exactly what was at stake. By 2000, George Weah's body was slowing down. He was 33 years old. He had spells at Chelsea where he won the FA Cup, then Manchester City, then Marseille, then a final chapter in the United Arab Emirates before retiring in 2003. The European dream was over. But for most footballers, retirement means golf courses and television punditry. For Weah, it meant something completely different. It meant going home, back to Liberia, back to the country that needed him more than any football club ever had. In 2005, George Weah announced he was running for president of Liberia. The football world was stunned. Politicians were dismissive. Critics said he was naive. That football fame did not translate into political credibility. That a man who had spent his career in European stadiums could not possibly understand the complexities of governing a war-torn nation. Weah ignored every single one of them. He ran hard. He connected with ordinary Liberians the way he had always connected with football fans, through raw emotion and genuine love for his people. He won the first round of voting convincingly, then lost the runoff election to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who became Africa's first female president. It was a devastating blow. A lesser man would have walked away. Weah did not walk away. He ran for vice president in 2011, lost again. Most people would have given up after 2 defeats. Weah saw it differently. Every loss was preparation. Every defeat was a lesson. He had grown up with nothing in Clara Town. He had been told his entire life that people like him did not get to win, and every single time he had proven that wrong. He was not finished yet. Not even close. In 2017, George Weah ran for president of Liberia one final time. He was 51 years old. He had lost twice before. The critics who had dismissed him in 2005 were still there, still skeptical, still convinced that a footballer had no business leading a nation. But something had changed. The Liberian people had watched Weah for 3 decades. They had watched him fund their national team when nobody else would. They had watched him show up for his country again and again when he could have stayed in Europe living a comfortable life. They had watched him lose and come back, lose again and come back again. And on January 22, 2018, George Weah was inaugurated as the 25th president of Liberia. The boy from Clara Town who played football with a ball made of rags had become the leader of an entire nation. So what is the real story of George Weah? It is not the Ballon d'Or. It is not the goal against Verona. It is not even the presidency. The real story is what he represents. Every time the world told him the door was closed, he found a window. Every time someone said people like him did not get to stand on those stages, he walked onto them anyway. He was the only African to win the Ballon d'Or, not because the path was easy, but because he refused to accept that the path was impossible. Arsène Wenger once said that when he first saw George Weah, he could not have predicted what he would become. Nobody could have. Not even the boy kicking a rag ball on the dirt pitches of Clara Town. But that boy became King George, the greatest African footballer who ever lived, the president of his country, and the proof that where you start has absolutely nothing to do with where you finish. If you want more stories about the human side of football that nobody else is telling, subscribe to Goalline Stories. We will see you in the next chapter.